Hello, and thank you for clicking on this video. Before the video starts, I need you to do two things to help this channel grow. One is subscribe down below, and the second is like this video and share it with anybody that you want to spread MMA news to, whether it's family, friends, anybody. I always appreciate your support. And now let's get to the video. Hello, everybody. My name is Tyler Russo, and this is the KO Podcast, episode number 33. In this episode, I will be reviewing UFC 285. Also, this weekend, we have UFC Fight Night, Jan vs. Dvalishvili, and we also have Bellator 292. Both of those events go down this weekend. Cannot wait. Ring that bell. All right, let's get into UFC 285. Let's start with the prelim with some performances I want to highlight. We had a bantamweight bout. We had Damon Blackshear taking on Farid Basharat, and Basharat gets the decision victory. Basharat looked very good in his UFC debut, and of course he gets that W and stays undefeated at 10-0. Moving on, we had a women's strawweight bout. We had Jessica Penne taking on Tabitha Ritchie, and Tabitha Ritchie gets the slick armbar submission in round number 2. Very impressive performance from Tabitha Ritchie. Moving on, we had a bantamweight bout. We had Mana Martinez taking on Cameron Simon, and Cameron Simon gets the decision victory. He had a great performance, but he did have multiple fouls in this fight. He's really got to watch out for these fouls. I believe in his Contender Series fight, the fight before this one, he had a foul as well. So he's really going to clean up the fouls because that is eventually going to cost him a fight. I believe he had 2 pretty significant fouls in this fight, and it stopped the action for multiple minutes. So that's really the only negative that I took away from his victory. But this was his UFC debut, and he got the victory in it. So congratulations to Cameron Simon. Moving on, we had a welterweight bout. We had Ian Gary taking on Kenyon Sun, and Ian Gary got caught bad, and I believe it was the first round. I thought he was gonna get finished. He definitely was a couple big shots away from getting finished, but Ian Gary rallies, has a great second round, and he finishes Sung in the third round at the 4:22 mark. So he gets the submission late in round 3. I was very impressed at how he recovered and how he fought through being rocked really bad. And, of course, it helps that Gary got that late stoppage. He looked really good. His straight punches, of course, were on point. His striking is, beautiful to watch. You can tell that his striking is really polished. The one area that, he seems to struggle in is when he gets in that pocket. He's very susceptible to getting, caught with hooks. So he's got to work on his, staying in the pocket, protecting himself and, trying to create some offense, in that pocket, or if he's not going to create that offense, step out quick and, stay and keep that distance. I think he is best in distance range. I believe he was throwing a straight, and he got caught by a hook in that first round. That is the punch that dropped him and hurt him very bad. But again, he was able to come back and get that late round finish. He moves to 11-0. Ian Gary, congratulations on the victory. Moving on, we had a middleweight bout. We had Julian Marquez taking on Marc-Andre Barriat, and Marc-Andre Barriat gets the TKO finish in the second round. Moving on, we had a women's flyweight bout. We had Viviane Drujo taking on Amanda Ribas, and Amanda Ribas gets the decision victory. Moving on, we had a middleweight bout. We had Derek Brunson taking on Drexus Dupuis, and Dupuis gets the finish after the second round. Derek Brunson's corner threw in the towel as the second round was ending. I think that was the right call. Brunson looked, done on the ground. Didn't seem like he was going to get up. He was taking some vicious ground and pound by Dupuis. And, again, Dupuis really impresses me with his grappling. I know in the last episode I said I still consider him a striker. I think I'm going to have to really start to respect his grappling a little bit more. I mean, he out-grappled Darren Till, and he out-grappled, Derek Brunson, or at least held his own. I mean, he was, I believe it was one of the last punches that connected with Brunson, but in the closing seconds of that second round, he hit Brunson with a shot. Brunson's head bounced off the canvas. I believe that is the shot that really put Brunson down and out. As I said, Brunson's corner threw in the towel. Correct decision here, but Drexus Dupuis continues his winning streak and continues moving up this middleweight rankings ladder. Moving on, we had a bantamweight bout. We had Cody Garbrandt, the former UFC bantamweight champ, taking on Trevin Jones. This fight was definitely not how I expected it to go. Trevin Jones didn't really throw any punches. I just feel like he was really caught up with Cody Garbrandt's just, athleticism and speed. Because Cody Garbrandt, although he has been knocked out, he still has those physical gifts of just being really fast and just, moving really well. So I think Trevin Jones, I think he was kind of getting frozen on the feet because, Cody Garbrandt, just his movement. And as I said, his speed, Cody Garbrandt in this fight played it very safe. And I'm not saying that to take anything away from him. I actually think that was a smart tactic from Garbrandt. He's taken a lot of punishment. He's been over aggressive, plenty of times in his career. And all those times, it mostly led to him getting finished. So it was good to see him be patient and pick his shots. I still don't know how far Cody Garbrandt can work his way back up in this bantamweight division, but we will see. Moving on now to the main card, kicking it off, we had a middleweight bout. We had a Bo Nickel taking on Jamie Pickett, and Bo Nickel gets the first round sub. There was a little bit of controversy. Some people thought that Bo Nickel, committed a low blow on Jamie Pickett before he took him down, and that sequence was eventually where he submitted Pickett. I did post a screenshot of, the closest moment that I could get. To me, it's not super clear what happens. Bo Nickel said that he need him in the inner thigh, and, the point where I froze the video, you could definitely make a case that it hit the thigh, but you could also make a case that it hit the groin. It's just so, tough on video to really see what happens, but there's no doubt that Jamie Pickett had a major reaction to wherever that kick landed. But right now, Bo Nickel, gets that submission win in the first round. Moving on, we had a lightweight bout. We had Mattis Gamrot taking on Jalen Turner, and Gamrot gets the decision victory. Moving on, we had a welterweight bout. We had Jeff Neal taking on Shavkat Rakhmonov, and Shavkat Rakhmonov gets the submission victory in the third round. But man, Jeff Neal really tested Shavkat Rakhmonov's chin, heart, and just desire. This gut fight of the night. Even though Jeff Neal missed weight, Dana White still paid him his money for the fight of the night bonus. But Shavkat Rakhmonov, what a performance by him. A nasty submission to end this fight in the third round. Shavkat Rakhmonov is a problem, and before you know it, he could be challenging for this welterweight belt. He's now 17-0. But I just got to say, big shout out to Jeff Neal. He really pushed really pushed Shavkat Ramakov and, really made this fight a slugfest. Moving on, we had a women's flyweight co-main event title fight. We had Valentina Shevchenko defending her title against Alexa Grasso, and Alexa Grasso submits Valentina Shevchenko in the 4th round. I was shocked. I mean, let's start with round 1 of this fight. In round 1, Alexa Grasso was touching up Valentina Shevchenko with her crisp boxing. As I said, coming into this fight, Alexa Grasso has great boxing, and she showcased that in the first round. On my scorecard, she won that first round. Then in the second and third, Valentina really changed her game plan, started to grapple Grasso, and seemed like she was getting control of the fight until she threw a spinning attack, and Alexa Grasso counters and locks in the submission. And I mean, the submission wasn't under the chin, but it was tight. I mean, it probably could have broken Valentina's jaw at a point if she didn't tap. But when Alexa Grasso released after Valentina tapped, you could see Alexa Grasso's the marks where her arms were, and you could tell that grip was tight. And obviously this is going to end up being a rematch. Very excited to see this fight a second time. Congratulations to Alexa Grasso. A big accomplishment for her and for Mexico. I mean, her, Brandon Moreno, and Yair Rodriguez are all champions as of now. Of course, Yair Rodriguez is the interim featherweight champion, and he will most likely face Alexander Volkanovski next. But Mexico, stand up. You have 3 champions right now. And now, moving on to the main event, we had a heavyweight bout for the vacant heavyweight championship. We had John Bones Jones taking on Ciryl Gane, and John Jones made this fight look easy. First round submission, and John Jones is now the new UFC heavyweight champion, and in my opinion, he is the GOAT. I put him first. It's John Jones, and then George St. Pierre in second place. That is how I rank the GOAT list, in my opinion, at least the top 2. I would have to think a little bit more if I was going to do a top 5 list. But yeah, John Jones submits Gane. Like I said, he made it look easy. He immediately, didn't give Gane any space. He was walking Gane down. Eventually, he got Gane, on the ground against the cage, and he was able to slip in a guillotine submission, I believe it was. Was able to get Gane, like I said, kind of in a sitting position up against the fence. His back was to the fence, and he slipped in that submission. It was tight. Didn't look like much in real time, but once you saw the correct angle on the replay, you could tell that choke was locked in. And John Jones, he is the GOAT inside of the octagon. Obviously, a different story outside of the octagon. Like I said last week, the only place that he has been perfect is inside of that cage. So, big milestone for John Jones. Interested to see if this John Jones versus Stipe fight is going to get booked. I cannot wait for that fight. Hopefully it gets made. I definitely want to see the light heavyweight GOAT take on the heavyweight GOAT. So that would be a fun matchup. Now let's get to this weekend's UFC card. All right, taking a look at this fight night card. A pretty good card from top to bottom, considering we just had a big pay-per-view. The first fight of the night, we got a welterweight bout. We got Carlston Harris taking on Jared Gooden, and Jared Gooden is taking this fight on short notice. He was in the UFC, then he had a couple fights outside of the organization, kept his name, available to the UFC, and he gets his shot back to the UFC. Hoping everything goes well for Jared Gooden. Moving on, we got a flyweight bout. We get Tyson Nam taking on Bruno Silva. Tyson Nam, obviously a powerful flyweight. This should be a fun fight. Moving on, we got a bantamweight bout. We got Victor Henry taking on Tony Gravel. In the next fight, we have a women's flyweight bout. We got Ariana Lipski taking on JJ Aldridge. This should be a fun women's flyweight fight. And the next bout is a bantamweight bout. We got Mario Batista taking on Guido Canetti. Mario Batista, look out for this dude. He is a beast. Look for a big performance from him this weekend. Moving on, we got a middleweight bout. We got Cedricus Dumas taking on Josh Fremd. And Dumas, I believe, is making his UFC debut. I believe he signed to the UFC by Dana White's Contender Series. And, looking forward to see how he does. And Josh Fremd, obviously a UFC vet. Moving on, we got a bantamweight bout. We got Rafael Assunção taking on Davey Grant. I believe Rafael Assunção is contemplating if this will be his last fight. So, this may be Rafael Assunção's final fight in the UFC. He has beaten some really high-ranked bantamweights in his career. Davey Grant, obviously a really powerful puncher in this bantamweight division. Moving on, we got a heavyweight bout. We got Carl Williams taking on Linskas Brzeski. And Carl Williams, 7-1. He is making his UFC debut. He also got his contract from Dana White's Contender Series in September. So looking forward to his UFC debut. Now let's get to this main card. Kicking it off, we got a light heavyweight bout. We got Victor Pranchino taking on Anton Terjaki. I believe that's how you say his last name. His nickname is the Pleasure Man. He is also a Dana White Contender Series alum. That's how he got his contract. He lost his UFC debut to Jailton Almeida by a rear naked choke. But no shame in that. I mean, Almeida is a beast. So very excited to see this fight. Moving on, we got a bantamweight bout. We got Said Nurmagomedov taking on Jonathan Martinez. Said Nurmagomedov is always a must-watch when he fights. He's 17-2. He's been working his way up in this bantamweight rankings. He's got really good spinning attacks, and he's got really good submissions as well. Jonathan Martinez, obviously a scrapper, really good stand-up. Excited to see how this fight plays out. Moving on, we got a featherweight bout. We got Ricardo Ramos taking on Austin Lingo, and Ricardo Ramos is coming off of an insane knockout. I believe it was from a spinning back elbow, and he finished it off with punches. Really a impressive knockout victory for Ramos in his last time out. Looking forward to see what he can do. Moving on, we have a catchweight bout. We got Nikita Krylov taking on Ryan Spann. This fight was supposed to be last week's main event, but Nikita Krylov fell ill during the event, and Ryan Spann found out during the event and talked to the press, and was very emotional. And you got to feel for a guy who was preparing to go to war, and it's just he's not gonna walk. That is a big mental, just mentally, it just probably messes you up really bad. So hopefully this fight is entertaining. Both of these guys, a week later are going to fight each other. So big props to both of them for taking this fight. It is a catch weight fight. Moving on to the co-main event, we got a heavyweight bout. We got Alexander Volkov taking on Alexander Romanov. And Alexander Romanov coming off of his first ever MMA loss. He lost to Maurice, what's his name? I'm blanking. Maurician Tybura. So I was not expecting him to lose, that fight. He looked pretty dominant, but now he's taking on, a heavyweight mainstay, Alexander Volkov. Obviously, he's very, very tall. He stands at 6 feet 6 inches. So he's always a tall task, literally and figuratively. But Alexander Romanov, he has very good grappling. He is a bear. When he, hugs you, he does not let go. So excited to see how Alexander Romanov, how his grappling, see if he can neutralize Alexander Volkov, his striking, and his size advantage as well. Moving on to the main event, we have a bantamweight bout. We got Peter Yan, the former UFC bantamweight champ, taking on Merab Dvalishvili. This fight is very, very important in this bantamweight division. This could be a number one contenders fight, depending on how that Henry Cejudo and Aljamain Sterling fight goes. Peter Yan, coming off of, some tough losses. Obviously that Aljamain Sterling defeat was for the championship. Then he faced Sean O'Malley, and he lost that fight by a close decision. So Peter Yan really needs a win here. And of course, we got Merab Dvalishvili standing across from him. He is on a pretty significant win streak. His last fight was insane against Marlon Moraes. Actually, Marlon Moraes was not his last fight. That was in September of 2021. But in August of 2022, yes, now I remember, Merab defeated Jose Aldo in a unanimous decision victory that was on the Usman versus Edwards 2 card. Obviously in that fight, from what I can remember, Merab Dvalishvili, really grounded Jose Aldo, didn't let him get his boxing combinations going. But I do want to touch on his Marlon Moraes fight. What a insane fight that was. If you have not seen Merab Dvalishvili versus Marlon Moraes, YouTube that fight and you will not be disappointed. Obviously, Merab Dvalishvili is tough as nails. He's called the Machine for a reason. He does not stop. It seems like he does not get tired. In this fight, I am going to pick Yan to win this fight. I believe Yan, just has more tools in the stand-up game to, finish this fight or damage Merab Dvalishvili. He's got good kicks, and he has pretty good grappling as well, Yan. So excited to see how this striker versus grappler matchup goes. Now let's get to Bellator 292. All right, getting into this card, some prelim matchups that I think are worth the watch. Obviously, Bellator prelims are always live and streaming on YouTube, so definitely go check out their YouTube streams when they have cards. You don't get a lot of free MMA nowadays, but Bellator still gets us free MMA, which is amazing. All right, some prelim fights, like I said, I want to get to. We got Enrique Barzola in a bantamweight bout. We also have Cass Bell taking on Josh Hill. Cass Bell, this is a huge step up in competition for him. Josh Hill is by far his most skilled, his most experienced opponent. And, going to be interested to see how he fares against, tougher competition. We also have Julius Anklikas. I hope I didn't butcher his last name too much, but if you remember not too long ago, he was involved in Bellator's light heavyweight Grand Prix. Now, moving on to the main card. Kicking off this stacked main card, we got Michael Venom Page taking on Gatti Yamaguchi. And Gatti Yamaguchi, he had an insane uppercut finish of Gracie in his last fight. He is now in his third weight class. He went from featherweight to lightweight to now welterweight. So Gatti Yamaguchi had a good welterweight showing. And he's, of course, taking on Michael Venom Page, who is a knockout artist. Michael Venom Page, his last combat fight was a bare knuckles fight against Mike Perry, and before that he lost a split decision to Logan Storley. So Michael Page is looking to get back in that win column. Moving on, we got a heavyweight bout. We got Valentin Moldavsky taking on Linton Vassell. And, Moldavsky still looking to, get another shot at that heavyweight belt. It starts with beating Vessel, and he may need one more, to get that rematch with Ryan Bader. But who knows? Moving on, we have a lightweight World Grand Prix fight. We got Tifuf Maskov taking on Alexander Shelby. This fight is going to be a good one. Tufik Masalviv, I believe that's how you say his last name. His Bellator debut was against Sidney Outlaw, and that fight did not last very long. 27 seconds into the first round, he knocked out Sidney Outlaw, who was supposed to be in this lightweight Grand Prix, but unfortunately tested positive for some banned substances. So Brett Primus is now in this tournament. So if Primus can get by his opponent, maybe him and Alexander Shelby can have their rematch. Obviously, Alexander Shelby finished Brett Primus back on Musasi versus Eblen card. I was there in person. I saw that finish happen. Alexander Shelby, pretty brutal finish of Brett Primus in that fight. But as I said, they could rematch if things go their way in this tournament. And now for the main event of the evening, we have the Lightweight World Championship online. And of course, this is part of the Lightweight World Grand Prix. We have the lightweight champion Usman Nurmagomedov taking on the former UFC lightweight champion Benson Henderson. Usman Nurmagomedov won the title back against Patricky Pitbull in a pretty dominant performance. I expect Usman Nurmagomedov to win this fight. Benson Henderson, former champ, like I said, he's been around for a while. He's hoping to retire at the end of this tournament as champion. That is his goal. So, in my opinion, I think Usman Nurmagomedov is going to get the job done. His distance management is elite. He has great kicks to keep that distance. He's got really good straight punches. His game, is the distance. He has pretty good elbows. He cut open Patricky with an elbow, I believe. That was a pretty nasty cut. So I'm looking for Usman Nurmagomedov to defend his title against a very tough Benson Henderson. And that is going to do it for this episode of the KO Podcast. To stay up to date with the podcast, Twitter is the best place to interact with me. Just go on Twitter and type in the KO Podcast with Tyler Russo. Also Instagram, the KO_podcast. And the YouTube channel is the KO Podcast with Tyler Russo. Make sure to follow all of those social media platforms to stay up to date with all MMA news and my opinions. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. Stay safe, stay blessed. Bye-bye.